Hello, my friends and dudes. Welcome back to Doody's Daggers, where we are today doing a year-end wrap-up for the channel. So, here's my idea for how we're going to do this. A lot of channels, what they'll do is they'll pick maybe their top five, three, even one, whatever knife of the year. They'll sometimes break them up into different price categories. They'll do, for example, top three budget knives of the year, top three knives between $100 and $200 for the year, and etc. Um, I would like to do that in the future, but where I am right now with the channel, I have not had the chance, money funds wise, to be able to check out a lot of the new knives that came out this year. I couldn't get my hands on a lot of the really good, cool knives that came out this year. Just couldn't do it. A lot of channels have, they are sent knives from manufacturers to have on the channel. That doesn't happen with me, so I have to buy all my knives. I have some buddies that'll send me a knife here and there. But for the most part, if you see a knife on the channel, I have bought it. So that wouldn't be fair to pick for example, a top budget knife of the year with only the, whatever, five or so budget knives that I bought this year. It's probably more than that, but so instead, what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna talk about some of the big, exciting knife purchases I made this year. Some of the exciting ones, some of the momentous ones, some big ones, the Hinderer, for example. And we'll kind of just talk about how the channel did this year. I started the channel about 8 months ago, so this all happened within the last year. Let me let the dog out before we continue. So, it's just kind of going to be off the cuff. We're kind of just talk about the year, what happened, some great knives that I bought this year, and I think it starts with the Hinderer. Now, this is a very recent purchase for me, later in the year, just about a month ago, a little less than a month ago, actually. But this knife here kind of symbolizes where I have come as a reviewer, as a person, and as a channel. This was my ultimate grail ever since I first started collecting knives. Absolutely, when I first started the channel, this was the knife that I wanted. The only knife that I really wanted above all else. One of my goals for starting the channel was to be able to buy one of these. I couldn't really afford it back then. And what's funny, I still can't. I still can't afford this. But, I'm not making any more money than I did at the beginning of the year. But I made choices in my life. I took some jobs, saved to be able to buy this knife. And it's just really exciting that I finally have one. It's a big deal for me to finally have one of these. This is the Hinderer XM18 Spanto with the choil, and I have a working finish textured titanium scale on this side, and I just added these blue accents, the filler tab and lock bar stabilizer, kind of hiding underneath the pocket clip there. I absolutely love this knife. If I were to pick one purchase that I made this year that was my all-time favorite, it would be the XM18 here. Absolutely. But there are a ton of other really good knives I got this year. So what I'm trying to say is I don't make any more money than I did at the beginning of the year, but I shifted around things in my life, took jobs, saved, and cut out other expenses so that I could afford these knives, is what I'm trying to say. And that's that. Yeah. The Hinderer XM18. This knife is Just everything I was hoping it would be. It's even more comfortable, choked up, choked back. It feels even better in my hand. It looks amazing. It's just beefy. It's so well built. Lots of attention to detail all the way around it. Really love the blade. The action, phenomenal. I love that you can use you know, these thumb studs double as the stop pins. Just a fantastic knife. So, favorite knife purchase of the year, Hinder XM18. Whoops. So, if I were to summarize the knife world this last year in one word, I would probably say button locks. I'm sure you guys would probably agree with me there. This was really the year of button locks. They took over the knife world. They really did. Previously, if you wanted a button lock, you would most likely have to spend money on a ProTech Malibu or something of that nature, something in the pretty pricey range. There weren't really budget button locks back then. And correct me if I'm getting my timeline wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Civivi came out with a bunch of button locks this year, and they were kind of one of the first ones to, one of the first budget brands to do it, even before Kaiser was really doing it. The first one they came out with was the Cogent, which I don't have here. I did own it though this year, and I really liked it. I stupidly sold it. That's going to be the story with some knives, pretty good amount of knives that I bought this year. I ran into situations where I had bills to pay. I ran into situations where I had an opportunity to trade a knife for one that I liked more. So there are a lot of knives coming and going out of my collection this year. Towards the latter half of the year, though, I have really strayed away from selling and trading knives. I've been only focusing on just accumulating them so I can grow the collection. But anyways, so Civivi came out with the Cogent first, and then I believe it was, I can't remember which was next. They kind of all came in a row in quick succession after the Cogent. But if I were to pick my favorite out of the four main ones, the two that aren't here is the Cogent and the Chevalier, which is the sheep's foot kind of button lock. But here I have the Altus and the Conspirator. Both I really like, but if I were to choose between the two, it would be the Altus. Before I got some other button locks in the last couple months, this was my favorite budget button lock, absolutely. It's just a really good design. Excellent thumb stud action. You guys know probably my main complaint, and a lot of people's main complaint with button locks is the mushy deployment, lack of a crisp detent. But this one, the Altus, they somehow did a very good job getting a nice crisp thumb stud action. Really good job. Very smooth. Really like just the clean, sleek design. My only critiques are there's no real sharpening choil, and I'm not a huge fan of the bead blast on the blade. Aside from that, fantastic job. Civivi did a great job with their actual buttons and the way their buttons worked. They sat flush. They were dished out, so they felt good on your thumb. Civivi did a great job with button locks. The Cogent I liked a little bit less just because it was a little bit more mushy, but the knife itself, the design, I really liked. I think it looks amazing. Nice neutral handle, broad blade, really thin behind the edge, fuller on both sides for the reverse flick, choke up spot. I actually enlarged mine a little bit. I wish they would have come a little bit bigger like this, but man, really big fan of the Conspirator. I think it was a really good knife. And then towards the latter half of the year, I got some more button locks. The Kaiser Cormorant. Almost forgot what the name of it was. The Kaiser Cormorant. Now, this specific one had been out for a while. Or, sorry, this specific one came out later. The Cormorant had been out for a while. And Kaiser released a bunch of button locks. We had the Hiccups. We had the original. We had Gosh, so many. I can't even name them all. The assassin, the bed glider button lock, so many, so many. But this was the one that I got out of the bunch. I had the hiccup for a while, didn't like it too much. The cormorant here, however, I very much like. And the more I have it, the more it has grown on me. It really has. When I reviewed this knife a week or two ago, I was complaining a little bit about the mushy detent. I was saying it didn't really feel satisfying to flip it. And I still believe that to some extent, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's breaking in or I'm getting used to it more, it really doesn't bother me anymore. It really doesn't. If I want to sit and fidget with a knife while I'm watching a movie or something, in the last couple weeks, I have been grabbing this knife almost 90% of the time. It's just so fun to mess around with, man. There's so many ways to open it. We counted on one of the live streams, I think it was like 8 total different ways that I could open this knife. It's just really cool. I really love the ergonomics. I love its just sort of unique design. You know, you've never seen a blade like this matched with this kind of handle as far as the shape goes. It's just unique. The button sticks out a little farther than I would like. Honestly, I don't even care anymore. This is such a fun knife. Such a fun knife. So that was my favorite Kaiser button lock that at least out of the ones that I experienced. And then CJRB came out of the woodwork with this gem, the CJRB Pyrite. I've owned a pretty good amount of CJRB knives over the years, probably around, I don't know, not an insane amount, but maybe like 5 or 6. And definitely have looked at a ton of them online and not bought them. But out of all the ones that I've ever seen, out of all the ones I've ever owned, this is the best CJRB ever made. Absolutely. They nailed this button. It sits a lot more flush than the Cormorant. I like how it's just flat. There's no jimping. The action is just so good. You don't have to hold down the button to get the blade to close. All you have to do is unlock it. Then you can just let go. It's so smooth. It'll just fall shut by itself without you even touching the button. If I tried that with the Cormorant, you let go of the button, it sticks halfway up like this. This is so smooth. It's crazy. They nailed the thumb stud action. Almost as good, if not better, than the Altus. You know, these two are very similar. You know, thumb stud button locks, similar size, sort of similar aesthetic. They both did such a good job with this thumb stud action on the with the button lock. Such good job. The reason I like the Pyrite more mainly is the choke up spot. I really like having that, and just the overall aesthetic. They just nailed it, man. I've said this a few times. There is a way to put together very simple knife design lines, put them together in such a way that makes just a really good looking knife, and one that still stands out to you even though it is a pretty simple design. Nothing crazy going on here, nothing out of this world, but they put these lines together, these simple lines, in such a way that I love it. It is so pleasing to the eye. It is pleasing to my hand as I use it. Love this thing. If it wasn't for the Cormorant and how just damn fidgety it is, this would be my favorite button lock of the year. It's a tough one between these two. Really tough. Gosh. I might have to go with the Cormorant just because it's so fun. As far as an EDC knife, thinking about functionality a little bit over fidgetiness, I would have to go with the Pyrite. It's just a better working knife profile, I think, with the choke up spot, the more neutral handle, the blade shape. If I go with my gut, which knife do I like more? I have to go with the Cormorant, but it's tough. It is very tough. So, it was the year of button locks. It really was. Let me know in the comments what your favorite button lock of the year was. I know I missed some, like the raccoon. the Vostede Raccoon was one that got really good reviews that I wanted to check out. Just never got around to it. But let me know in the comments what your favorite button lock of the year was. So, this year I also got in on my very first drop of a knife from, a private, a smaller company, smaller knife designer. You know, limited number of knives in the drop. I somehow, I think my buddy Diener emailed me and told me they were just dropping. I went on the site and I pretty compulsively bought one. And I'm really glad that I did. This is the EMP EDC Nimble W. And this was the first time I had gotten in on a drop. Um, Usually I just wait, either I can't afford it or for whatever reason, I wait for them to come into production if they ever do. This one, however, will not. I mean, they'll probably do more drops, probably of this one. But once they're sold out, they're sold out. They're gone until they make another batch. And this was the first time I had gotten in on something like that. Um, I really like this knife very, very much. It's the Wharncliffe style. There's a couple different versions of the Nimble, different blade shapes. But I jumped on this one because, Wharncliffe, sheepsfoot, that's my jam. Um, Really interesting, kind of futuristic aesthetic on this guy. We have really nice textured titanium, or not, sorry, frag pattern titanium scales. Really great clip that works amazingly. Um, this is sort of like the Cormorant, where we have the same number of deployment methods. The flippers are kind of just 90-degree parts of the tang that are showing outside of the scale. It just makes for a really fun knife. It really does. This thing is so smooth. The reverse flick is excellent. Really, really nice choke up spot. I love how the jimping goes almost all the way down the spine here. So choked up, you're always on that jimping. Really like how they did this stepped kind of opening hole where there's this area here before you get down to the final hole. I think that looks great. Love their logo on the pivot there. Great stone washing. This is such a cool knife, and I'm so happy that I got one. This was the first production of these, and it'll never leave the collection because of that. I'm just really, really happy to own one. So that was a big deal for me. First drop, first time getting in on a limited number of a knife. It was also a big deal when I bought my very first full titanium 80/20.5. This was one that I had been chasing for quite a while. Just never could quite get it. And then my buddy Jason decided to sell me one at a reasonable price, and I could not resist. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is one of my favorite knife designs of all time. It has almost everything that I like in a knife in this. It has a fidgety but very strong locking mechanism, multiple deployments, sheepsfoot blade, choke up spot, full tie, amazing stone wash on the blade. Just so many things I love in a knife. So many things. This is another one that will never, ever leave the collection. Demco 80/20.5, baby. Oh, yeah. Then there were some really, really good budget knives that I picked up this year. We talked about a few at the button locks, but I'm going to bring out some of my favorite budget knives of the year that are not button locks. Number one, I know you guys have seen this knife before, but man, I have had so much fun with my Civivi Lumi. I carried this knife during Christmas along with another one, but this was my main package opener for Christmas, and man, I have had so much fun with this knife. It's a Justin Lundquist design. Such a thin hollow ground blade, just extremely thin. Thin blade stock to begin with. Extremely pointy tip there. I like how the G10 looks. I put a titanium clip on mine. I think it really adds to the knife. But the action is really what I love about it. I love that I can just top flip it like that so easily. I love being able to just barely put your thumb over the top of here, bring it back, and the blade just pops out so nicely. It's so fun, and it looks so cool too. Um, this has to be one of my favorite budget knives of the year. Absolutely, this came out a few years ago, but like I said, we're just talking about knives that I bought this year. This is one of them for sure. One that I was really surprised at was the Kaiser Lieb here. When I unboxed this, I was blown away at the detent. This is the snappiest detent I've felt in a very long time, possibly ever. But since we have really good leverage in this kind of larger flipper tab, it is so satisfying to pop this thing out. Unbelievably satisfying. I love the micarta. I love the whole look of the knife. Very thin blade, hollow or full flat grind, N690 blade steel. Just typical Kaiser quality. There is a button lock version of this knife. It's a bit bigger, and that's absolutely on my list. If it's anywhere near as snappy as this one, which it probably won't be since it's a button lock, but man, if it's anywhere as snappy as this one, that is going to be an amazing knife. Kaiser Lieb. All right, we'll talk about a few more here. The weirdest knife I bought this year probably has to go to the Spyderco Roadie. This little guy is a slip joint, and I actually really like it. It looks pretty awful. It doesn't look like it doesn't aesthetically really, it doesn't look good to me. It looks interesting though, which is why I bought it, and I like things that look interesting. I wouldn't say it necessarily looks good though. This is just a weird little Spyderco slip joint. It's got these weird little dimples here, so you can grab it and pull it out. It's got a choke up spot. I mean, it is really thin behind the edge. I like the blade shape. This is a really good like little utility style knife doing detail stuff. Um, Plastic handles or some kind of, I don't know, some kind of polymer, but they really don't give that much flex at all. It feels like a very sturdy knife. Decent snap and opening, decent snap when shedding. Not the best walk and talk ever by any means. But this is just a really cool, weird little Spyderco, and I had to have it. It's just, I mean, it fits perfect in your fifth pocket with extra room even. So that's kind of the main reason I bought it. Just something to have, something I thought was cool. Yeah, weirdest knife probably. Spyderco Roadie. And that's about it. There were other knives I bought this year, obviously. Those were kind of the main points. We do probably need to talk about the Sharp by Design Apex. This was a huge purchase for me. It was the first time I had spent over, it was the first time I had spent over, I think, like $200 on a knife. Before this knife, around $200 was the most I had ever spent on a knife. But I had to have this. I have had my eye on Brian Nadeau's designs for a very long time. Sharp by Design is the name of his, is the name of his brand. These came out. There were some available, and I had to buy one. I bought it used. I actually traded a ZT0562 titanium that I had, plus a couple $100 in cash to buy this. So it wasn't all cash. I made a trade as well. This was a big deal for me. I had never spent that much on a knife before, and man, I was absolutely impressed with this knife. I want all of his production knives. I really, that's a goal of mine in my collection, is to own every Brian Nadeau production knife. I think it's possible. There's not a huge amount of them, and they do pop up on the secondary market occasionally. But man, the Apex here is such a good knife. Detent is incredibly snappy. It's absolutely one of a kind feeling. Reverse flick, insane. Just really beautiful inlay work. Just a really beautiful knife in general. It's so futuristic. It reminds me of something you would see in like Star Trek or something like that. Just kind of yeah, it looks like it's from another planet. Um, just amazing knife. This will never leave my collection either. Sharp by Design Apex. So let's get out the main points here. Let's get out the hinderer. Let's get out the favorite button locks. Actually, I should probably do this. Maybe. I don't know. They're not all going to fit. One of my favorite budget knives of the year, the Civivi Lumi. One I had wanted for a very long time, the Titanium 8020.5. The Altus, which was only pushed out by the Pyrite. Excellent, excellent button lock. The weirdest knife, the Rody. The snappiest detent of the year, the Kaiser Lieb. Oops, I'm shaking the camera. Yeah, that's about it, folks. We got the Pyrite, but yeah, there we go. So that was just a little recap of the year. It's been a huge year. Like I said, started the channel 8 months ago. I just want to thank you guys for becoming my friends and you know, watching my videos, liking, commenting, all the stuff that you do. Channel members, Dr. Dude and Nate, I love you guys. If you want to become a channel member, you should do it. There's different tiers, different kind of perks and stuff that you can get. So go check it out, see what your options are. There should be a link in my description, or there should be a join button next to my channel name. If you don't see it on your phone, look on your desktop. Been having some trouble getting that to show up for some reason, but it will show up for sure on desktop if it doesn't on your phone. I'm really excited to see where this channel is going to go. We're slowly growing. I think, you know, I always knew that if I spent enough time and didn't give up, that the channel would grow. And it is. It's actually working. So that's about it. I love you guys. Like I said, leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite button lock of the year was. And let me know what your favorite knife of the year was. Doesn't have to be one released this year, just like I did here. Just a knife that you bought this year. What was your favorite knife that you bought this year? That's it. Love y'all. See you in the next one.